Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So, Derek got a super fun and extra exciting video for you guys today because I am playing Metroid Prime Hunters, but I am not emulating it. Obviously, I'm not playing an original Nintendo DS hardware. I am playing the first, as far as I can tell, Nintendo DS static recompilation. That is because this is running as a full static recomp, bypassing any emulation whatsoever and recompiling out of the actual code as well as the calls to the hardware for both the video and the audio. And honestly, I went in being given this demo to kind of try out to see whether or not it was functioning well enough to actually talk about a release, and I left extremely impressed because I was able to complete the first mission with no issues whatsoever with mouse and keyboard, a solid frame rate. I just ended up having fun and stopped thinking about what it was I was actually testing. And you guys have been absolutely asking a ton of questions about whether or not Nintendo DS static recomps are coming anytime soon, and now with the toolset here from MStan, it's going to be possible to statically recompile a lot of DS games. And that definitely is a fun new frontier as far as recomps are concerned because people have been really curious about it, and now moving forward it's going to be possible. Before I get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. Now right off the top, obviously, this is running at a higher resolution than a Nintendo DS, but of course the textures are still going to be pixelated and the same thing you would get on the DS version of the game, because you are loading in your legally owned version of Metroid Prime Hunters, and it is using the assets from there. So hopefully in the future someone will produce some sort of texture pack, that way in a static recomp you could get a lot better resolution. Now don't get me wrong, I actually kind of like the vibes of the super chunky pixels on the DS, but I totally get that some people don't love that. But considering Metroid is such a massive franchise, now that this is available as an actual recomp, I'm sure the community will want to play around with it and see what they can mod in. And obviously right now we're running this a little bit wider than 16:9, and that is because there is an ultra wide mode to give you guys a better viewport. Every once in a while there's going to be a little bit of culling, and that is still something that needs to be worked on under the hood, but otherwise this thing is definitely working really well. Now going through the launcher here, you have the ability to use a gamepad, although honestly mouse and keyboard is going to be what you want to use. It just is so much smoother. You go ahead and load in your ROM, and then you also have a settings and mod menu. I'll go over the settings here and the mods a little bit in the future, but you can see you can scale the window, you can have super sampling, full screen on or off, even change the layout between having separate windows for the touchscreen or just having them combined. And the nice thing is, as far as the touchscreen is concerned, a lot of the buttons have been mapped back over to a keyboard so you can actually run the game without having to go over to the touchscreen very often whatsoever. Now that's definitely going to be something that has to be thought of a little bit more as far as DS ports are concerned when it's a static recomp, because honestly a lot of the games use that dual screen pretty regularly, so getting that's going to be something that you're going to have to configure on a game by game basis for DS recomps. But clearly here it worked because I only had to take my hand off the mouse and keyboard maybe twice in the original mission here, playing from capture for about 35 minutes. And as far as the stability is concerned, I was able to get through the entire first mission, save my game, go back in, make sure the game persisted. I never had a single crash or issue. Now I haven't tested this thing all the way from start to finish, and I was given access to this before anybody else was going to be seeing it. So when you actually watch this video, there will be a link in the description below to the GitHub repo so you can start testing it out, because MStan, the developer on this one, has said that he needs a lot more feedback and reports from the community so they can refine this overall system. And for those of you who care how it was made, yes, there's some Johnny 5 or LLM usage here, but obviously MStan's recompilation tools are effective because Open Pete, the Spyro the Dragon recomp that we just talked about, was used with PSX Recomp, a tool that they developed to get PlayStation 1 games over to PC. So MStan's definitely making some stuff that the rest of the community is gravitating towards now, and I feel like you'll see the exact same thing on the Nintendo DS side. Because there's so many incredible DS games that could be brought over to PC as static recomps, so we're just going to have to wait and see what the next one is. But in my capture of this, I stopped thinking about how it was running and just started realizing I was having fun, and there really is very little to point to say that it's not doing things correctly outside of some of the culling, and again, that's an issue that basically every single project faces, whether it's emulation, static recomp, or a PC source port based upon a decompilation. Sometimes you have to go in and basically tailor things so that it won't cull those polygons at the edges, because obviously this is way wider of an aspect ratio than something like Metroid Prime Hunters was ever intended to run in, so that will require a little bit extra work. But let's go to the first of 2, maybe even 3 soundtrack samples. I'll have to see how I feel later on in the video, so you can hear the audio quality coming out of the first Nintendo DS static recomp from MStan. So listen and enjoy. I mean, that definitely just sounds like Metroid Prime Hunters to me, but you leave me a comment down below and you tell me what you think of the overall audio quality, because obviously this is basically just a first draft at getting Nintendo DS games statically recompiled for PC, because a lot of times recently I've been getting questions about why this version, not that version, on static recomps. I just recently talked about Street Fighter Alpha 3, a PlayStation 1 recomp, and people said, why didn't the dev on that one just do the Sega Saturn version instead, because it's technically the superior game. And while I agree with that sentiment, there are no static recomp tools really available for something like the actual Sega Saturn, so it's one of those things you kind of work within the tool set that is available out there, and this now means that there is going to be a DS recomp tool set that can be utilized. And like I said earlier, the fact that the OpenPete team decided to go with MStan's recomp tool set to be able to bring Spyro the Dragon to PC clearly shows that these tool sets are going to be bringing more projects in the future. But obviously getting this frame rate persistent, getting mouse and keyboard support, getting that mouse aim really makes this game feel that much more incredible, because I do own an original copy on the Nintendo DS, and while it is a fun time, now honestly playing something like this on PC you kind of struggle to go back to a DS handheld and deal with the dual screen setup there with all kind of the control caveats of actually getting smooth gameplay, because Metroid Prime Hunters is definitely a fun game, and I enjoyed the ever-loving hell out of it on the Nintendo DS when it came out, but now if I'm going to play it, really the DS is kind of the last platform I'd want to use. I'll go to Melon DS, and now that we have this recomp, definitely would be the de facto preferred way to play, at least for me personally. Well, leave me a comment down below and you tell me, did you play Metroid Prime Hunters on an actual DS and what did you think about it? And because I always love to ask the question, now that we have DS tools to be able to actually recompile Nintendo DS games, what's the game that you would love to see come over with a full PC port? There's a ton of different options out there, so you tell me down below which ones you'd love to see. But as we get into this firefight here, being able to strafe on the keyboard, being able to use mouse, look, charge your weapon, and do everything else you possibly want, it just increases the fluidity of the game to a substantial degree in which I could never go back to playing it on that DS. Now you might notice that the actual visor for Samus is a little bit extended there, because of course that is basically a sprite, so that's something again that would have to be adjusted in and maybe even have a little bit of the art redrawn, because this was never the aspect ratio the game was intended to run in, so the fact that it even works this well in the first place is a testament to not only how good this mod is, but how good the tool is doing in and of itself. I think definitely that this is my preferred viewport now, and I did load this up on my LG C4 OLED 65-inch TV, and it looked outstanding there as well with all the fun blacks and the colors popping. And honestly, the big giant chunky pixels are even a vibe when you go to OLED. But this is definitely just something I went into test expecting it might crash, it might have some issues, and I really kind of struggled to find anything to point out again that really wasn't working so well. Let's do another soundtrack sample so you can catch the vibes of actual Metroid Prime Hunters audio, and I'll be right back with a lot more review on this one. So going back to the actual launcher here, if you go under mod, you're going to see two will be included. It has prime controls, so you're going to be able to have all of that mouse and keyboard. There's going to be an entire calibration menu in there as well, so you can kind of play around with everything, as well as adaptive widescreen, bringing it close to 21:9. And it really is nice on prime controls that they've been included based upon different modifications that existed for the game before, and you can really kind of dial in whatever it is you want. And that is going to be to your benefit, because maybe you want mouse sensitivity up a little bit or down a little bit. Although I use a trackball, so honestly, the sensitivity here worked perfectly fine for me, but I'm not sure how you actually want to play the game, so you can adjust all of those things. And right before the soundtrack sample, I said I'll be back with more review. Obviously, this isn't really quote-unquote a review of a finished product, because this is still the first pass of recompiling Nintendo DS games for PC. But if I was going to give it a review, all I would say is maybe fix a little bit of the culling, but otherwise you have a really great project here. And if you want to look this up on GitHub, the toolset is called DSRecomp, making MStan one of the most creative naming convention people out there. All jokes aside, it's pretty easy just to name it what it needs to be, because PSX Recomp exists, so why not call it NDS Recomp? But if you take a look at the footage, the motion cadence, and everything else here, again, there really is not a lot to point to say, I would improve this here or I'd improve that there. And like I said earlier, I'm sure modifications will come to this in the future because there is a massive community around basically everything Metroid. Just recently we got the VR version of Metroid Prime, and that's been a ton of fun as well. And honestly, I feel like maybe in the future you could even VR Metroid Prime Hunters based upon the static recomp. You would definitely need a higher frame rate, and maybe some of the pixelated textures would be slightly irritating over a long period of time, but otherwise I think you could pull that off. And as we're in this battle right here, being able to strafe around, having the frame rate stay persistent, having mouse look and everything else, and most of the touchscreen controls applied to your keyboard, it becomes just a smoother playing game. And that really is the thing about the DS. It was a great idea from Nintendo, and of course I own one and have a ton of games and do love it. But when you go back to some of these games in 2026, not when they released, you realize that sometimes the control schemes kind of felt a little bit shoehorned in. You wish you could just push a button, not have to go to the second screen to kind of play around with your weapons or anything else. So here you have that on the keyboard. You can switch over to the morph ball. You can go ahead and turn on your scan visor. Basically everything that is on the touchscreen, for the most part, you're going to be able to bypass. There are a few things you'll still have to click over for, but again, work in progress. But that is kind of the fun thing about these projects again. I love seeing how things evolve and develop. Sure, this isn't a 1.0 release, it's not marked as such, so don't expect perfection, you can't be disappointed. But when this thing actually updates to a 1.0, I'll definitely cover it again, because I like being able to compare the development process. But one more soundtrack sample just because the music is quite good, and I'll be right back with just a touch more. Figured I'd throw one cutscene in there as well so you knew that all of those were working exactly as expected, but of course those are still going to be in their native aspect ratio because you can't really extend those out without stretching everything versus being in engine where you can actually just draw more to the left and to the right. So if you want to play this one today, the GitHub link is in the description below, and MSTAN is looking for more people to test this. So if you play it and you find any issues, go over to GitHub, open up an issue ticket. If you have any photographic or video evidence, definitely link that in there so they can actually go through it and better understand it. Because as much as I wish I had the time to be able to 100% this game, I've got a bunch of stuff going on this week, so I basically covered as much as I could to tell you guys that Nintendo DS Recomps are here, and DSRecomp as a tool is available for any developer basically to play around with it in the future. And honestly, this one, you guys have been asking about Nintendo DS Recomps, and the first one is here. Be sure that if you have any questions or comments, I'll leave them down below. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you're stoked about the idea of more Nintendo DS Recomps in the future. But I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.